Well, good evening, everybody. It's Chris here from the Whistle Stop Cafe in Mirror, Alberta. Thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Well, it's another episode of Live with BertaProudDad. So what do you think? Should we just bring BertaProudDad on right away? What do you think? Think so? All right. There he is. Hey, Lawrence, how's it going?
I love that. The crowd's just going wild. I love that. That's amazing. How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. It's been a pretty crazy week, but good spirits, hopeful for the future. You?
Awesome, buddy. Well, I missed last week. I thought we had all the times and everything was going to jive and I was going to be on the show. I was going to be there, except I was late. WestJet kind of screwed me over there. And we didn't do last week, but so I've been traveling. I've been doing some stuff and some things. I got home today and I'm ready for it. You know, it's more like a 2-week recap at this point.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, last week I was hoping that by some miracle you'd be able to jump on, but alas, you were I think you were on an airplane when I started. But it was a kind of an interesting Mother's Day recap. I shared a little bit about my mom and kind of who I am, where I come from, and I was happy to do it because I think these days people look at people like you and I just as talking heads on a screen, and they don't realize that we're actually human beings with families and loved ones and things like that. So that was it was a good experience.
Yeah, you know, I would like to take a little moment and talk about my folks, particularly my dad. You know, I was just with my folks. I had some stuff I had to take care of, and they live, you know, across the country, and they're getting up there in age, and I was, you know, I just wanted to go and check up on them and make sure that, you know, it was all on the up and up and everything was good. They just moved in with my grandmother. They're taking care of her and everything else. So I just wanted to make sure my parents were too stressed out. But, you know, my parents don't agree with my content or my political affiliation. Right. I've been very clear about that. But the thing is I was still able to sit there and have a great time with my parents. Right. And that's one thing that I want everybody to realize, even though it is hard that you just want, you know, your parents, for instance, to get through to you or you get through to them. You know, my mom said one really important thing to my dad while we were there. And, you know, my dad doesn't watch my videos, right? And he doesn't agree with me politically.
Doesn't watch any of it?
No, he doesn't pay attention to it. He watches some of them, like when I put out a sobriety video or something like that. He likes those ones. But when it comes to political affiliation, he just doesn't. And that's fine. That's his choice, right? That's his freedom to do so. But she did say something really, really important. She said, you know what? You raised him to be true to his values, to stick to his values, to do his research. And when he believes in something, he's going to be vocal about it. You raised him to be that way. And my dad said, you're right. You're absolutely right. You know what I mean? And he didn't fight me on it. He doesn't fight me on it. You know, he has his value and belief system, and I have mine. And it's just unfortunate that, you know, I can't get through to him, but I'm not going to stop loving him as my father. Now, it is funny, though. It is funny, and I will say this, and I hope, well, maybe he does see this. Pops, if you see this, we can talk about it tomorrow.
Hey, Dad.
He talks about mass immigration, right? And like how it's like detrimental to this country. And he talks about all these other stuff and when, you know, wages and cost of living and all this other stuff. And I'm like, Pops, in my head, right? Because I'm not there to have an argument with him. We're past that. I'm like, you voted for this shit. like you voted for this. And I'm sure a lot of the viewers at home can see this, maybe if they have somebody in their family, you know, if they can relate to the stuff that I'm saying, that you see them complain about policies that their political party actually is responsible for. And you're just trying to like, be like, hey, you voted for this. You believe in this. But at the end of the day, I'm not ever going to let it break up my relationship with my parents or my grandmother or anything like that. And I think that's family is more important than that, because, you know, it's just who I am as a son. And I just thought it was, you know, very important for me to share that out there, that, you know, if you're having a struggle with your parents because of a political affiliation, just remember, you know, they are your family. And, like, my dad is totally against all things woke, right? Sexualization of kids, all that other stuff, totally against it. But, you know, it's just, they fall for the fear mongering. That's what they do. They fall for the fear mongering. It's unfortunate.
You know what? I actually forgot something, Lawrence.
Yes, sir.
Our conversation tonight may actually impact the way in which our First Nations brothers and sisters execute their treaty rights in this territory. So I suppose we should, do we call someone? I'm not sure. How does this work?
Yeah. Do we have to get First Nations consultation before we do this live stream tonight? What does the chat think? We got real Steven Jensen in there with the super chat. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate that.
There's Steve. Yeah.
I asked Northern Perspective Ontario about one pipeline deal. They said it was unlikely to be built, and they're finally seeing that Alberta's being royally screwed by Ottawa. Comments on topic. I wanted to get to the pipeline a little bit later on, so stick around, Stephen, for sure. But so I don't know if you noticed, Chris, I posted a picture of me and a picture of my grandmother on my Facebook.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people like to call me a pretendian, right? No, I'm status. That's what I am. My dad's just very white. And the thing is so I know how treaties work. And that's the funny part about this, is I've lived both sides, right? I used to spend every single summer and most long weekends and holidays on reservations growing up. But the thing is I had rocks thrown at me because I was the white kid on the reserve. You know what I mean? But the thing is there's a lot of First Nation support out there for Alberta independence. And
46%-ish?
100%, 46%-ish. So as soon as I posted that picture, I had First Nations in my DMs. It doesn't matter that you're First Nations. You're a traitor to all of us. You're going to get yours, blah, 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 whatever.
Get what?
You know, what am I going to get? Right? Like, what am I going to get? What this is how I'm looking at the situation for First Nations. And I don't speak on behalf of all First Nations, but I'll speak as a person who has a First Nations background in heritage. Okay. No treaties were ever adhered to. Whatever treaty was written between the Crown and First Nations in this entire country has never been adhered to. Not one. They've been broken over and over and over again. The Indian Act is racist. Absolutely racist. That little status card I have is a racist card. It has a little number on it that stamps a number to me and says, well, we know when this Indian dies. That's what it is, right? And they can track your Indian around the country and all this other stuff. But the thing is, you need to be able to have a conversation at least. And that's what we're seeing, is you can't have a conversation. What's wrong with negotiating a new deal, or even just having a conversation about a negotiation of a new deal? That's where it doesn't make sense to me, because any successful businessman or woman would tell you, if you have a chance at getting a new deal, you'll take it, just to listen and have a conversation about it. And that's just my take on it.
Well, I just had a thought. Actually, I've been thinking about this for a bit. I was kind of thinking, like, and Ben, I'm going to get to your comment in a minute, because it's all, I appreciate your comment, taking the time to write it, but it's all wrong. I've been thinking about what else would impact treaty rights. Like, what could possibly impact treaty rights in Alberta within the political sphere? Because, I mean, this was a political thing that got quashed because of anticipated infringements on treaty rights. Well, an election can certainly impact treaty rights, because our government of the day will pass legislation, issue policies that may or may not benefit certain Indian bands across Alberta. So it could. So I'm actually I want to find a status First Nations person, and I want to help them file a class action lawsuit against the Alberta government to prevent the election, unless there's consultation with First Nations first, because that will inevitably affect treaty rights, probably in more ways than even a referendum on Alberta independence will, because it's things that will happen immediately, not through negotiation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting take. Finding that person would be probably a little bit hard, but maybe it won't. Maybe like we can have a deeper conversation about that. Now, can you just explain that a little bit in detail, just so I can wrap my head around it? How an election could possibly infringe on treaty rights?
Well, when we elect a government, the government is going to do certain things. What we're doing is we're giving consent to people to legislate, to make laws on our behalf. Some of the laws they make, some of the negotiations they may do could impact treaty rights. For instance, if they authorize a development somewhere, or allow a company to come in and perhaps mine coal, right? These things could impact treaty territory. In that case, I would say that an election, the result of that, could impact treaty rights, just the same as asking the question on Alberta sovereignty could also impact treaty rights. And you know what? In both cases, it may impact them or it may not. We don't know. We don't actually know until we ask the question, do the thing, and then start getting into the details of what it looks like.
Yeah, so I see that. I see exactly where you're coming from. And the thing is every election theoretically has actually impacted treaty rights. If you look at legislation that has been imposed since 1867 in this country, the treaty 6, 7, and 8, they were signed even before Alberta became a province. So that would be a question that I have. We were the Northwest Territories at the time, I believe, and in 1905 Alberta becomes a province, but like, who negotiated treaty rights between Alberta, the new province, and the treaties that were here, right? And that's the big thing. I think my biggest issue that I have here is the First Nations actually don't want to talk. It's not about consult.
They said they never will.
Yeah, exactly, right? So they'll scream it's consult. So we saw with the MOU, now we've seen, and say what you want about the pipeline right now, I don't want to get to that, but we've already seen the First Nations come out and say, we will not consult on the pipeline. And that's not Alberta that has to consult. That's the feds. So Mark Carney and the feds have to consult on a new pipeline deal. And First Nations come out the very next day after Danielle Smith and Mark Carney sit down and say, we will not consult. So here's the thing about duty to consult, how it works in my brain. If I were to come to you and say, I have a duty to consult, and I say, hey, Chris, I'm going to build X there, it might impede on you. And you say, nope, I don't want to talk about it. I just did my duty to consult. I literally just consulted you. It's up to you whether you want to come and have a conversation with me and we can work this out.
That's a really good point.
And that is how I'm looking at this duty to consult. So if duty to consult would just be the Danielle Smith saying, First Nations, Treaty 6, 7, 8, we are having a referendum on Alberta independence. This does not affect your treaty rights because it's just Alberta citizens going to a vote and to say whether they want to stay in Canada or leave Canada. All treaties remain intact. All treaties are here. That is my consult. It's over. The duty to consult has been fulfilled, and we now move on and we move from there. Now, in the just say a successful referendum happens, that's when negotiations have to start anyway between the Crown and Alberta. And of course, nobody in this movement, I haven't seen one person in this movement say we are kicking First Nations to the curb. Because I'll tell you one thing, if somebody came out and said, and they were a prominent figure and it was part of the plan that we were kicking First Nations to the curb, telling them to go F themselves, I would not be supportive of Alberta independence, because First Nations people are Albertans as well. And that's what people aren't understanding, right? And I think what's going on here, and this, you can tell me if I'm completely out to lunch, they want civil unrest between us and them. And the Chiefs are loving this. The Chiefs are loving this because they've wanted this forever. Because when there's civil unrest, what do? They get to look like heroes to their community members and get elected. It's no different than the colonial system that we work under, where politicians get to look like heroes. Right. And at the end of the day, I think it's just disgusting. And we saw that poll, 46% of First Nations people are in support of Alberta independence. I think it's actually higher because First Nations people actually don't vote. Right. They're very rarely to go vote. But the thing is there's lots of them out there that do, but the majority of them just don't. And the thing is why wouldn't you just want to have a seat at the table for a shot? Something's fishy there. All the chiefs come out in unison. They've been bought off for years. They're the same people that blocked pipelines. They're the same people that worked with Greenpeace. They're the same people that assemble and say that we're killing the planet. But the thing is what are they doing about killing the planet in other countries? Nothing. Right? If these First Nations actually gave a shit about the land, they would care about all land. And I know that might be ignorant for them and for me to say that, but I've never seen a First Nations, Indian Reserve come out with a big, huge $1 million campaign against coal mining in China, right? Because it hurts the planet, but they sure as hell do it here to hurt our industry and our people. And that pisses me off. Anyway, sorry.
Well, it's alleged, and some evidence was uncovered to support this a few years back. Chief Alan Adam, one of his numbered company that he's a director on, received a $50,000 grant from the Tides Foundation right before he started protesting the oil sands with Neil Young. I don't know if people remember that, but it was a real thing. Rebel News covered it, and it was a big story, and then just went away. And he's one of the people now that are saying, hey, we're never going to consult. You guys can't do this. Steve's asking, who does the government consult, the hereditary chiefs or the elected chiefs? It would be both. Whether it's a hereditary or an elected chief, they're there in their capacity, supposedly, to represent the people. However,
can I talk? Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
If you want to pull that comment back up, if you don't mind. Hereditary chiefs. Now Steve obviously knows what a hereditary chief is versus an elected chief, right? So, and for those of you that don't know, a hereditary chief is bloodline. That's what that is. It's kind of like the monarchy, and you will stay in the line of succession. Elected is, as a First Nation individual, we go, our Indian band, we do elections every 3 years where we elect on chief and council. That's what we do. We elect our chief and council. Hereditary chiefs, how this came to be is a lot of this happened in British Columbia when elected chiefs were actually working with industry because it would benefit the band. And then these hereditary chiefs come out of nowhere and now start claiming, no, we're the hereditary chiefs to this land. Now you have mass confusion. Yeah. Personally, myself, the treaties, if we want to stick to treaties, they adopted the colonial system. The colonial system is where we go to an election and elect chiefs. Hereditary has nothing to do with democracy. So a First Nations person cannot sit there and tell you they believe in democracy and say that they believe in hereditary chiefs at the same time. They absolutely can't. I would say the duty to consult is on the elected chiefs because under the Indian Act, we literally use elected chiefs. We don't use hereditary chiefs. That's my position. But if you wanted to bring everybody to the table, you can, but you're going to find a lot of that. And that's what happened with expansion in northern BC with Trans Mountain, I believe.
Yeah. That makes that actually makes a lot of sense. And I've actually written some articles on this. As far as I've read, and of course I didn't live back then, but traditionally First Nations groups, they didn't have chiefs and councils. They had elders, and they operated in a matriarch. Like, it was actually the women that made the choices and the elders that kind of advised on what was going to happen. And it wasn't until, like you said, Lawrence, that the treaties came in the Indian Act that the British Crown actually set up this little imperialistic regime in each tribe so that they could control and benefit and reward one person for keeping everybody else in line. And here we are in this situation today. Let me tell you a little bit about the situation that our First Nations brothers and sisters face today. This is the status quo. This is what the chiefs are advocating for. Some of them are advocating for and defending. I'm going to leave the worst one for last. And that's, by the way, if you have a different opinion on which one is last or worst, whatever, put it in the comments. Indigenous poverty rate is double that of non-Indigenous, despite billions in federal spending. The gap has not closed in 5+ years. First Nations youth die by suicide at 6 times the rate of non-Indigenous youth. Indigenous adults are 8.4 times more likely to die of an accidental opioid overdose. Indigenous adults are 4.3% of the population, but 33% of incarcerated people. And of all incarcerated women, half are Indigenous women. Indigenous women are 12 times more likely to be murdered or missing than other women in Canada, 61% have experienced intimate partner violence in their lifetime in their home. 53% of all foster children in Canada are Indigenous. They are 7.7% of the population, of all kids. Alberta has the worst disparity in the country. Now, here's a real kicker. First Nations on reserve live nearly a decade less than non-Indigenous Canadians. And if you're Inuit, the gap is up to 18 years less. Now, this is the status quo that people are advocating to continue.
Yep.
My question to those people is, why do you hate First Nations people so much? Why don't you want something better for them? And if you're a leader, why don't you want to do something to pull your people out of those types of statistics?
Yep. And actually, I'm getting a little bit whatever as you read that, because I've lived all that. I've lived all of that. I lost 4 relatives last year, way before they should have gone.
Jeez.
And they're all from my First Nation side. I've watched addiction destroy my family, including myself. Right? I was not immune to that. Right? I've seen and generational trauma is real. My grandmother's a residential school survivor. That's not the Trudeau version. Okay. I want people to realize that that's not Justin Trudeau's version. But the thing is there's a lot of hurt and pain on First Nations communities. And these chiefs and councils, as well as band administrators, don't give a shit. They don't. They are traveling. They are going to conferences in Ottawa. They are doing all these deals, driving with their chauffeurs and their Suburbans. And it's no different. If you've watched Yellowstone or whatever it's called, not Yellowstone, but anyway, whatever. The show with the black Suburban and the chief and all this other shit. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's no different than that. And like some of them, right? And they have hired security and casinos and all this other stuff, and they don't care about their own community. And you just saying that list is my lived experience on that side of my family. First Nations people in this country only matter when the government can use them as a political pawn. And that's any government, by the way. I'm not going to say conservative or liberal. I'm going to say any government.
Linda has kind of chimed in on that, and so I'll put it up. Not to stir the pot here, however, when I lived out in Cochrane, I was friends with several of the RCMP officers. They tried really hard to investigate things that would happen there regarding missing women, etc. They said they were shut out. They want to complain, but nobody wants to help and pay attention. Yet when they show up on the res, nobody will talk to them. They can't help the Indigenous if the Indigenous won't help. And, Lawrence, I suspect that has to do with a lack of trust that Indigenous people have to the Crown. And The RCMP is the Crown's executive branch of government, works for the executive branch of government in Canada. So it's not surprising that First Nations people don't want to talk to them. But this is the issue. We have a group of people who have been, and full disclosure, I do not believe that the Crown's intention was to chain Indigenous people up on reserves. I believe the intention was to give them what they needed to integrate in a society that was building around them so that they didn't disappear. That's what I believe. And we can talk about that later. I can back that up. But the Indian Act and what Ottawa did, it put chains on First Nations people, and it caused some serious damage. And of course, they don't trust government. Half of them, I shouldn't say half, but many of them don't even trust white people because they believe that they've been oppressed in some way or another. Now, I'm a pretty strong advocate for change for First Nations people because I read those statistics, and it breaks my heart to think that that's the way what people are living with, right? We need to change that. But how do you change that if the gatekeepers who are constantly saying that the system has failed their people are petitioning the system to keep the status quo, meeting with the king, going to Ottawa, asking democracy to be shut down? How do things get fixed?
Well, that's the thing is, what is the solution, right? And what does the solution look like? I think Stephen Harper, many people might like him or dislike him. It doesn't matter. He was doing something very good. He was coming out with the First Nations Transparency Act. I believe that's what it was called. It was actually passed, but the first year of Justin Trudeau, they shut it down, where they were only able to do 1 year of investigations and audits into First Nation reservations and chief and councils and budgets and all this other stuff. And imagine that. They found, I believe, 15 cases where there was substantial amounts of fraud, right? But the thing is, they weren't done their investigation yet. And then all of a sudden, it just goes away, right? Because when you're a government and you need to use the First Nations as a tool, whether it be block energy, block pipelines, start a war, a civil war like we see starting. This is the start of one, I believe. If we don't get our shit together, you have to basically protect them, right? And by protecting the abusers on the First Nation communities, and I'm not saying that every chief and every council member is a bad person. I am not saying that. But by protecting the abusers that are out there, you're essentially saying the behavior that happens on that reservation does not matter, and we don't care about you. And that's what I'm trying to talk to First Nations about is, if you see this happening on your reservation or in your community, why are you so in favor of the Crown? That would be my first answer, because they already do hate government. For years and years and years, they were told to hate the government. And now all of a sudden,
really?
Yeah, exactly. And now in 2026, now all of a sudden we love the government. That doesn't make any sense to me, right? You have First Nations people human trafficking their own First Nations people. You have First Nations people murdering their own First Nations people. There's huge amounts of them incarcerated. Like you said, youth suicides. What is there to hang on to in that? And that's what on the other end of it, non-First Nations, when I'm talking to just Albertans of non-First Nation descent, I ask them, what are you hanging on to in Canada, right? What's your Canadian dream that you're still hanging on to? And they can't answer a question, right? It's when you actually look at the nitty gritty of the past 11 years, and you can even go into the Stephen Harper era, it doesn't even matter to me anymore. But you can look at our parents, what they needed to build a life. Now today, to have that same quality of life that your parents gave you in 1991, you need to make $225,000 a year. How many households in this country make $225,000 a year? Very minimal. So at that point right there, what exactly are you hanging on to as a Canadian? That's just a simple question.
Let me tell you a little bit about some families that actually do make that much money.
Mm-hmm.
So this is actually the latest Let's Talk Alberta trifold that I'm working on. This one is actually called A Pamphlet About First Nations and the Case for Change. So talking about family incomes. Why do activist chiefs love the status quo? $2.7 million. Stoney Nakoda Nation paid its 3 chiefs and 14 councillors $2.7 million in 1 year, tax-free. Please fact check me on this, folks. $265,000. Ochese Chief Darren Whitford took salary and expenses while leading a band of 842 people. $265,000. Fort McKay's chief earned 10 times the average band member income. 10 times. Even if the average band member income is $30,000, which that probably is pretty darn close, $300,000-ish. Alberta pays the highest chief compensation in Canada. The transparency law that disclosed these numbers was suspended in December 2015 at the Assembly of First Nations request. You haven't seen the numbers since. Who benefits from the opacity? Now, I would say that First Nations people in general would benefit from knowing where the money's going, for sure. But guess who advocated to make sure that nobody ever knew where the money was going? The people where the money was going. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So there are some families that make that much money.
Yeah, 100%. I want to remind people, let's go back to the colonial system of chief and council being elected. You can't not think that First Nation chiefs and councils aren't corrupt when they're following the exact same system that we follow out here, right? They elect people, they go into positions of power, and then they make decisions for the masses based off of that. They're lobbied just like everybody else, right? They have big business, small business. They usually give a lot of contracts to their cousins, their uncles, their sisters, whatever it might be. And if you're First Nations in here and you're watching this, you don't have to say it in the chat to expose yourself, but send me a DM. You guys know what I'm talking about. This is why I get the death threats from the First Nations people, is because I am telling the secrets that nobody knows. I'm saying the actual things that happen. It is absolute fact that if you go to a chief and you look at their family members, they own construction companies, they own guiding tours, they own logging companies, they own paving companies, they own all these other companies. And guess who, First Nation places where they don't have potable drinking water, guess who owns the potable trucking company that brings in the water? It's not just some random. They're connected to chief and council 100% all day, every day, all the time. And only that, they've been given grants based on that, right? So this is the thing, is if you are in the little club of family members elected, you will do your darndest and play dirty all the way to make sure they stay elected, because you own the potable truck, you own the grader, you own the construction company, you own all this. Meanwhile, thousands of people on this reservation are living in shit. And that's the thing, is when I'm out there and I'm looking at Alberta. I was flying over Alberta the other night and I'm like, man, if only we could just unify First Nations and us and have real conversations without the name calling and the slander and the violence and everything else. If we can just sit there and say, what are you hanging on to in Canada? And just listen to them. Maybe they do have a valid argument as why they want to stay, but you can't tell me your treaties weren't broken. You can't tell me that you're living in a cushy lifestyle, and you can't, if you're on reservation, and you can't tell me the Crown is taking care of you. You can, but then we will debunk it. That's the thing, is there are First Nations out there. Like, I set up 3 interviews with First Nations people to have on the podcast. They all wanted to do it, right? One of them I had to reschedule, and we're just waiting on a time. The other 2 canceled last minute because they're terrified. They're absolutely terrified to come on camera. They even said, I'll get my ass kicked. I will get beat up tomorrow as soon as this goes out. They've even told me I'm being watched. I'm being watched. I'm sure you are too, Chris, and many other people out there. But the thing is, I'm not going to stop fighting for the average First Nations person, because I know what they're going through. And I'm also not going to stop fighting for Alberta independence, because I know those average First Nations people will have a better quality of life under an independent Alberta.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Throughout this whole thing, I've received tons of threats. I don't think as much as you. Like, some of the things that people say to you are just freaking bonkers, man. But I've received threats, and I got to say, it's not actually until the last few months broaching this subject that I've been concerned, like legitimately concerned about this. We hear about this stuff all the time. It's not new. When the tree gets shook, things happen. And yeah.
Well,
I don't know.
Let me just.
It's a weird feeling for sure.
100%. I'm just going to go through something here. If I can.
I saw a comment here that I wanted to. Jimmy Dean, you're kind of being a little bit brash in the comments
here. Okay, so I got this email, if it opens, the other day. I didn't respond to it, from Dakota Gray. All you're doing is spreading hate and lies, fucking goof. Even if you were native, clearly you're a perfect example of how, when Canada was first confederated, they wanted to kill the Indian and the child and assimilate all of us. You're just a bad fucking goof making jokes about First Nations spreading racism. You need to fucking die. That's what I got. I've been in this podcast all night talking about First Nations. Have I said anything about I want First Nations people or children to die? This is the thing, right? This is the hatred that is spread by the other side. This is their leaders saying, you need to attack this guy. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. This guy is bad. This guy's terrible. This guy's going to destroy your life. Meanwhile, those same leaders have already destroyed their lives. This is the stuff I get every day, all day. And it's First Nations people. But contrary to that, I get tons of comments, or not comments because they're scared to, but DMs of First Nations people saying, keep fighting the good fight. Thank you for fighting for us. But I honestly do believe they want us to hate them and them to hate us, so something big happens. And I don't want that to happen. I want to have conversations and dialogue. We don't have to agree on everything. But I think we can all agree that under an independent Alberta, they would actually maybe have a treaty or a negotiation that would stick and be adhered to.
Yeah, yeah. I don't hate them. I don't. I want better for them than this. Mm-hmm. That's what I want. I don't want anybody in this province or in this country to live under statistics like that. Mm-hmm. I don't. Period.
No, it's terrible.
Like, and honestly, Lawrence, what is anything that we have said tonight that could be considered racist?
Can't.
I'm literally advocating for a better future for First Nations people than what they have right now.
Yeah. Yeah. We live in a culture, Chris, where you mention any race now, it's automatically the rebuttal is going to be you're racist, right?
Wait, I think we're allowed to talk about Jews, though. We see that a lot on social media.
Oh, yeah.
It seems like it's accepted.
Yeah, now you're allowed to say whatever you want about them because it's the status quo now. We're literally, it's identity politics where they've pinned everything against each other. They actually think the labels still work. Like they've diluted racism and bigotry and homophobia. They've diluted it so far. Like I remember when I first got called a homophobe, I'm like, man, I'm not a homophobe. Like, F you. Like, whatever. Now I get called a homophobe, but just, I get called everything. It just, it's
doesn't
gone.
Mean anything anymore.
It doesn't mean anything. Right. And I actually feel for the people who are experiencing real racism, right? Where somebody's like, hey, that guy's being a racist to that girl. And people are like, man, whatever, because they don't give a shit. They don't care anymore. Racism means nothing. Right. This is what I believe. There's pieces of shit in every race, color, creed, religion, faith, doesn't
100%.
matter. There's pieces of garbage in every single one. Right. I'm not even perfect, but don't call me a racist because I'm the farthest from it. Right.
Come to me and disagree, right? Because you disagree with them, you're a racist.
Yeah. Call me an asshole. Because I can be an asshole sometimes. Right. But to call me a racist is just absolutely, it's stupid because you've diluted it. And, you know, I am not saying racism doesn't exist, but us wanting what's best for First Nations people is not racist. Us pointing out the faults of their leaders is not racist. Us pointing out the people who are ignorant to it, who don't want a better life, is not racist. Right. And you know, they can spew their hatred all they want. But when you look at chiefs and council salaries, do the math, folks. These people are literally paid to spread the narrative to their communities and the propaganda to their communities, do the bidding of the crown. That's what they're paid to do.
100%. Where we got here? Steve Jensen, super chat. I was on the streets in Edmonton. Yeah, he was. Steve actually lived on the streets. He's got some pretty interesting stories. Him. First Nations gang was a serious threat in the drug trade and other illegal enterprises, product of your environment. Well, you know, when you're in a hopeless situation, you devolve to the lowest common denominator of your environment. And this is the result. And, you know, some of the things we're seeing right now, it is absolutely unreal with what's going on in our society. I forgot to mention earlier, folks, when Lawrence and I talk, we talk about these things because we legitimately believe they need to be talked about. We have issues in society. We have issues in politics. And if we don't talk about them, they're never going to get fixed. You might be uncomfortable with some of these things. You might disagree with our opinions, but this is what needs to happen. We have to start talking about these things. And no, I'm sorry, Chief, but your rebuttal with "I'll never consult," that doesn't do anybody any good. Anybody.
No.
Right? So we have to start talking about these things. And also, please like, share, follow, and do those specific things on each of the platforms because it helps it go out even further.
I was just going to say that for the people, you know, like Chris and I come here every Sunday. We'll try to do every Sunday and have these candid conversations. And we don't always agree on everything, but so you guys can join in the conversation with us. You know, like we're spending our Sunday evening doing this, but that's only half of it. You guys are also spending your Sunday evenings with us, which we absolutely appreciate. And if you do like what's being said here, please make sure you're subscribed to Chris, you're subscribed to myself, and you're sharing this out because I will tell you right now, since Mark Carney has gotten his majority, every single content creator on the internet is being throttled. Every single one. It doesn't matter who you are. And we now absolutely, the algorithms rely on shares and follows and likes. Yep. Those three things
likes for
will
sure,
will help push our content out there. If you're in here anyway, you're talking in the chat, you're listening along, and you like what we're saying, absolutely. And if there's anybody in here who wants to rebuttal any of the stuff that we've said in a respectful manner, that's one thing, Chris, that I've decided while I was on my little week away. I am no longer responding to disrespectful things as of tomorrow. If you want to have a conversation and a dialogue with me, I will absolutely have it. But the minute you bring in my addiction, you call me the R word, you call me racist, you have to name call me to have a dialogue. We're finished. We're done. We're over. I will not stoop down to anybody's level and let them beat me with experience. That's not going to happen.
Yep, that's a good idea. Stay out of the muck for sure. Yeah. Icelandic Rose says, people who call others racist are usually bullies. Yeah. Or they have no debate. They have they have nothing to talk about. And they can't formulate something to talk about, so they just try and dismiss or cancel. Now, following that comment, Gregory says, I agree with half of this. If you or your ideology thinks there is more than one race of humans, you and it are racist by definition and are not Christian. That's a very good point. I don't agree with the not Christian thing because people can have different opinions on whatever. But Greg's right. There is only one race. The idea of race is not an age-old concept. This is something that's only been around for I think less than 100 years or 150 years. Yeah. Race is a construct of people trying to classify human beings based on their physical differences. That's it. Yep. At the end of the day, we all have the same physiology. We all bleed the same. We cry the same. We laugh the same, although some laughs are so bad that you don't want to make people laugh at all. But you get my point, right? There really is only one race.
Yeah. Got a Raptor guy with a super chat there. Things need to hit rock bottom before change happens. I'm at the point now where I tell people begging on the streets, you voted for this. Yeah, I have an interesting thing that I do with people on the streets who ask for money because I am an addict in recovery, and a lot of the people on the streets, and I was almost on the streets, right, because of my addiction. But I wasn't never on the streets. Don't turn that around. I was almost there. If I kept doing what I was doing, I would have been there. So when a homeless person or whatever asks me for $5, I say, do you have 5 minutes of your time? And I buy their time to talk about my story of addiction and faith and how I got out of it. And, I'm not making them or forcing them to do anything, but maybe 3 weeks down the road that clicks something in their head and they might go get sober, right? And they might clean themselves up and try to live a better life. Who knows, right? But that's the thing. Even then, it's not just white people I'm talking to about sobriety and addiction. It's Black people, it's Asians, it's First Nations people. It's, my own cousin is, I got sober. He saw me get sober, bettered his life. He's First Nations, and he's been sober, took his whole life back, right? And the big reason was my younger cousin saw his bigger cousin go through this, hit rock bottom, almost lose everything, get sober, and he's like, man, I need to do that too, right? And that's the thing is, we need to have compassion for people. And I guess this is what I'm saying. I will have compassion for people who actually want to have a dialogue and discussion and we can have conversation. I will not have compassion for somebody who just wants to tear me apart because they don't like my 15-second video on the internet. That's just not, I waste too much time in the weeds over there. I will talk to people who actually want to have the dialogue. And we definitely will continue on that narrative, right?
You mentioned earlier that you wanted to talk about the MOU.
Well, now, let me check. Now's perfect. Now's perfect as ever. The MOU, we haven't talked about it, you and I. So I just want to know your position. So I first put out a video saying, you know what, this is bullshit, like whatever. But then I had to think about this. Now, do I think a pipeline is coming? Yes. Reason why I think a pipeline is coming, that they just restarted a big pipe plant in Regina, Saskatchewan, and they're actually making the pipe for it. That's one. Why do I know this? A guy works at that pipe plant that I know. Two, why is it a year? It's a year because companies have to hire people, get places intact, get equipment. You got to get all this stuff. Do I agree with $135 per ton carbon? pricing on this? Absolutely not. I want zero. But we have to remember the Conservatives lost the last federal election. If you wanted zero on that, we should have had Conservative government. We were locked in at $95 per ton. Now it got to increase because Danielle had no choice but to increase to 130 because you're dealing with liberals. So here's my thing. I would rather 1 million barrels a day to the coast than 0 barrels a day to the coast. Why? Because it helps the Alberta economy and it gives us jobs. I've been a proponent of jobs ever since I've been on the internet. I will always be a proponent of jobs. When Stephen Harper had the Canada's Economic Action Plan in one of the largest recessions that we've all ever been through, Stephen Harper spent a lot of government money putting people to work, Canadians to work, to build infrastructure in this country. He spent a lot of money doing that, right? It was mass socialism. It really was. But what he was doing was making sure that people had food in their mouths and could feed their children. So do I like the carbon pricing on this? No. To the CEOs out there who say this doesn't make us competitive, you guys haven't spent a lot of money in a lot of years, and you guys have been making record profits hand over fist. You have been. So at the end of the day, your competitiveness, yes, it does hurt your competitiveness. But if you want a better competition in this country from anybody from coast to coast, you got to vote Conservative because the Liberals will always put a price on carbon no matter what. That's never going away. It's not ever going to stop. And if we ever want to see a pipeline again, we have to play their game. They're the federal government. We're the provincial government. So I got eaten alive for coming out and supporting the premier on this, but I see where she's coming from. She's backed into a corner. She can't. So on one hand, she agrees to the carbon pricing and we get a pipeline at $1 million a barrel. The other hand, she says, I don't agree and we don't get a pipeline. She's damned if she does and she's damned if she don't, right? You're going to have the anti-pipeline people who are like, yeah, see, we won. And you're going to have the people who wanted jobs and they're going to say, yeah, you know what? Fuck you, Danielle. You didn't fight hard enough for us. Then you have the people that hate carbon, which I do too, and I don't agree with. But if you look at the whole scope of it, she didn't have any other choice. She ran on getting a pipeline. She literally ran on that. She got you a pipeline. It's that simple. And so that's my little spiel. What's your thoughts, Chris?
Okay, I'll chime in on that. But first, I'm going to take this super chat from Raptor Guy 86. Raptor Guy, I disagree. He says, I'm at the point where there's no such thing as too harsh when it comes to my thoughts on liberal voters. I'll give you my take. A liberal voter is an ally that we haven't done the work to reach yet. That's what a liberal voter is. Mm-hmm. I had a conversation with Tom today. He's another podcaster. I did an interview with him, and he mentioned something about our enemies. The liberals are enemies. I said, they're not really our enemies. They're just people that we haven't talked to yet and brought to our side with open dialogue. That's what these people are. They're human beings. They're not our enemies. And we just haven't done the work to bring them to our side yet. So there's my take on that. Mm-hmm. Now, the pipeline. 5 years ago, I would have thought this was a win. Now I do not. And the reason being is because, first of all, I believe that we will always be moving the majority of our trade, especially with energy north-south. It's just the way it is, right? This pipeline deal has to contend with First Nations groups in British Columbia that say we will never consult. Okay, so is it dead in the water? I don't know. We had a very, very strongly passed motion at the last UCP AGM to stop pandering to the climate zealots and have no more involvement with carbon pricing or carbon capture or any of that stuff. That was very, very clear from the United Conservative Party base, which is Danielle Smith's base. Mm-hmm. Now, I do applaud Danielle for doing this negotiation and actually getting a Liberal Prime Minister to the table to even do it. That in itself is miraculous. Mm-hmm. I do believe that the reason she was able to do it is because the independence movement in Alberta is so big. Mm-hmm. Now, if you want to get pipelines built and you want to get around Mark Carney demanding that we pay a tax on the air we breathe, carbon dioxide, demanding that we pull carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and stick it in the ground instead of feeding it to the plants and farmland that need it. We need negotiation leverage. And that leverage exists in a successful referendum on Alberta independence.
Yeah.
It also exists in policy and legislation passed by our provincial government that takes control of every jurisdiction in which Alberta has, or every sovereign area in which Alberta already has jurisdiction under the Constitution. And Lawrence, you've heard our friend Ben Trudeau speak about these things, right?
Yeah.
Biggest one, tax collection, employment insurance, unemployment insurance, pension plan, policing, immigration, all of those things. We have to do those things. He who has the gold rules.
Mm-hmm.
If we took those things and were sovereign in them, according to the spirit of a sovereign Alberta within a United Canada Act that Danielle Smith campaigned on, we could negotiate more effectively and probably wouldn't have that carbon pricing. However, we haven't done that. And I ripped into her a little bit last week because we haven't started to take control of these things. Because if you truly want a sovereign Alberta and you want to maintain a united Canada, you first have to take the sovereignty. And we could do that. We could do it with acts of the legislature. No problem. Yeah. So this is my issue with the pipeline. Yes, I do want the pipeline built. If we can get it built, I do believe that it will create employment and jobs and those things. But I'm very concerned if Alberta maintains an unbalanced negotiating relationship with the federal government, that subsequent federal governments, which will probably be liberal, they can change it just as easily as we got it, right? So that's my major concern.
Yeah. So I guess, and I totally get where you're coming from. I'm going to circle back to this is what she ran on though, right? So she needed to get a win there for sure. She did run on getting a pipeline. That was something that she said she would fight tooth and nail. And Trudeau wouldn't even talk to her for the longest time. So you are right, commend her on that. I'm against carbon tax altogether, right? Canada has 1.6%, I believe, of global greenhouse gas emissions. Yeah. If we got rid of it to zero, you are not going to affect anything at all, because countries like Russia and India and China, they don't care. They would just make up that input, right? They would just make it up anyway. So I've never been a proponent of carbon tax, but I guess what I am saying is, so your whole spiel that you had there is a case for independence, 100%, because no matter what, if there is a liberal federal government that you're negotiating with, you will always be negotiating carbon pricing. That is the new liberal strategy. That is what they do. That is just what it is. Like I say, Danielle Smith was between a rock and a hard place. She won a mandate based on getting a pipeline. They locked in carbon pricing at $95 earlier, which I disagreed with, but that's what we had to do to keep going on with the federal government. And then now it's increased to 130, which is under the 170, right, on the national average by 2040 that they're going to have. So we will always remain under. David Eby saying it doesn't make them competitive. Who cares about David Eby and British Columbia? But the thing is, and I see the tanker ban stuff in there too. You are right. You cannot have a pipeline with a tanker ban in place. You are absolutely correct. Expect the tanker ban to be lifted. Mark Carney's not going to negotiate a pipeline with nowhere to get the oil, right? If it's 1 million barrels per day, we have to lift the tanker ban. He's just not going to say it all at once, because he's got division within his own party right now because of this, right? His party, his caucus is not happy with him because of negotiating. So the whole case for independence is this. I still am pro-independence. I still want to see an independent Alberta, but I do understand that Danielle Smith had to get a pipeline, had to get something. Now, all the other carbon pricing and everything else, that's part. Vote conservative and win a conservative federal government, because that's the only way you're ever going to see any of that go away. And to be honest with you, I don't think Pierre at this point, after he's seen the revenue that comes out of that, would actually be able to remove it, because of the debt that we're in from the Liberals. Yeah. So we're in a mess. I support Alberta independence because of the mess we're in.
I agree. I'll tell you why I believe that I don't think the tanker ban will be lifted. Mm-hmm. The reason the tanker ban won't be lifted is because right now there's 15 First Nations groups on the West Coast who support the tanker ban. They're already protesting the pipeline, saying that if we move oil through their traditional territory, which is unceded, and they're taking title to everything, by the way, we're going to destroy their way of living. And they demand consult, and they don't even demand consult; they demand consent, is what it is. So I don't believe that's gonna be lifted, and that's, this is where we need some serious leverage. Now you're right. Danielle's got herself in a real pickle here with the carbon tax specifically. There is a way she could get around that easily with an act of the legislature. My friend George Clark actually brought this up years ago. Did you know that a government can't tax another government in Canada? According to the Constitution. That. Okay. So the way the carbon tax garbage works is that the federal government says you need to have these carbon pricing schemes in place provincially, otherwise we're going to do it. So Alberta could, in theory, implement that specific carbon tax, $170 a ton, $200 a ton, who cares? And say, you're paying this. But every month, they could offer a carbon rebate to that carbon tax payer every single month and give every penny back. They could actually do that. That's the loophole and the workaround the carbon tax. I'm not sure why they don't do it. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it's too bold.
I'm going to ask people. Yeah. Because if we can do that, let's do that. Because I don't get me wrong, I still support Danielle Smith, but she needs to start playing dirty here, because Alberta's done. Like we're done. We're done with the federal government. We're done with the BS. I love my conservative brothers and sisters throughout Canada. Trust me, love you guys. You're amazing. But the thing is every province, no matter where you're from, you need to start caring about your province, because the federal government has affected every single province negatively. We have to start making the federal government obsolete. And how we do that is we start up little independence movements in every single province and territory in this country. Because if you care about it, you got to fight for it. You don't fight for Canada anymore. The Liberals have destroyed that. You fight for your way of life at home. And you can do that from your home at home.
And that's how you fix Canada. If you want to fix Canada, you start at home. You start locally in your province, and you take control in every single thing you can. And then, Canada can start to mend, or maybe not. Who knows? Maybe we're just an economic union or whatever. I don't know. Steve says that pipeline must go to Prince Rupert or other, not Vancouver. Water's too shallow for big tankers that we need, not a TMX, different route to the north. Yeah, there is some truth to that, Steve. The route into the lower mainland is actually, I heard it's quite narrow, and it can be quite dangerous. So, but there are other routes that are proposed for sure. I would love to see a massive economic corridor, including a pipeline and highway improvements and rail, go right up through northern British Columbia and totally just rain prosperity down in every community along the way. That would be amazing to watch. Now, your comment on Danielle Smith, that is a great segue, unless you have something else on that.
No, I was going to say Danielle Smith, the premier, actually knows that, because I sat in a meeting with her. This is half a year ago now, where she told me exactly that. But I will say that there are talks happening right now about dredging Tawasin and being able to get tankers into there. So there are talks about that happening. It's just talks, though, right? So I'll just leave it at that.
Well, that sounds like it's going to impact the traditional fishing area. So I don't know.
It'll impact everything. Duty to consult will be a thing for the rest of her life. That's why I've been making little comments or Facebook posts about, hey, thinking about putting a shed in my backyard. Should I consult the First Nations first? Because apparently we're going to have to duty to consult before we, go for a shit in the woods. At this point, it's brutal. Anyway, sorry. Segue away.
Oh, that's right. Hey, just another cool, interesting point. I'm from Campbell River, British Columbia. I was actually born there. And in Campbell River, we had the largest non-nuclear man-made industrial explosion, where we literally, I should say we, I don't even know if I was born yet, but they blew up an underwater mountain with a ridiculous amount of dynamite. They tunneled under the ocean, tunneled into this mountain, packed it full of dynamite, and then just blew the absolute shit right out of it. You can watch the video online. It was called, oh my goodness. Google something like that, and it'll come up. I'm having a brain issue right now. I can't remember what they said. Steve says it was reported this week that there was zero new investment in resources in Canada. The oil companies said that the risk assessment and bureaucracy is too high to make it feasible. Absolutely. We've both been watching investment capital absolutely just hightail it out of Canada ever since 2015. It's been hemorrhaging out of Canada. The uncertainty and regulatory things and policies has made it so that we have suffered trillions of dollars of losses. And I always bring that up when people say, oh, the talk of independence is making investment capital flee. BS.
Fleeing. Yeah,
it's already gone
already. Yeah,
and we need to change it.
Yeah, it's and to be honest with you, where are all these people coming on the mainstream news saying that, all I've seen is capital investment is fleeing? Where's the people that are fleeing? Can you show me who they are? Right? Because they can't, because it's just a narrative and it's all BS. And that's the thing. Like, again, I'm going to be straightforward with this. I believe Danielle Smith is the best leader right now of the UCP party. There's nobody else that can touch her. Nobody can come close to her leadership right now. She's stuck between a rock and a hard place. She's fighting multiple fronts. It is not easy, but I will say, she has not given me a reason right now to not think that she is not going to give us, one, a referendum, and two, that she's just a failure as a premier. Look at every other premier in this country. She's the strongest premier in this country right now, hands down.
Yeah, there are things that I wish you would be different, but I'm also not on the inside. This is a great segue. I'm not going to put the full comment up on the screen because actually I think it'll fit. Let's see. It's from Jimmy Dean. Jimmy Dean says, "This is fun. Not one of you dopey clowns understand the math. Math 2023, 928,000 conservative voters. How many UCP members? Those who were at the AGM would know. 777,000 NDP voters. UCP won 6 riding by less than 2,500 votes. You want to call a leadership review in an election year to anoint your savior. You clowns couldn't muster more signatures than the other idiot." Oh, I appreciate that. "Who did it without cheating." No, they actually didn't. But anyway, that's beside the point. "And now you want a participation ribbon for coming second. The only thing you're proving," I think there's more, but that's enough. So this guy is saying, guy, girl, whatever, I don't know. Jimmy is saying that it's retarded to have a leadership review or change the leader in an election year. There is a lot of buzz out there right now that if Danielle Smith doesn't give the Stay Free Alberta referendum question, which is, do you agree that Alberta should cease to be a province within Canada and become an independent state? If she doesn't put that on the ballot, there's a group trying to build grassroots participation to trigger a SGM in the United Conservative Party and remove Danielle Smith as a leader. I think that is completely preposterous. It's probably one of the worst things that we could do, and it wouldn't change anything anyway. There's a lot of bullheaded people charging at this like a bull in a china shop, and it's like they can only see 6 feet in front of them. Okay, so we replace Danielle Smith with who? Let's see. Who could we replace Danielle Smith with that would be more inclined to put this referendum question on the table and wouldn't have half of the caucus leave? I can't think of anyone personally, but let's just say we did that. Do the problems with the ruling that just came down from Justice Leonard go away? No, they don't. They still remain. Do the problems that First Nations are bringing up go away? No, they don't. They're still the same. Do the issues around Stay Free Alberta wanting a specific question on the ballot go away? No, they don't. Nothing changes. The only thing that changes is it's a different person put in the same situation and with the same, looking at the same consequences for the same paths. Nothing would change.
It's actually going to hurt. It's actually going to hurt Alberta, because now you have a new leader who now 100%. Has to rebuild all those relationships over again and gain trust and go to meetings and like it's just, here's the people in the independence movement, and I want to know what type of people you are, and maybe you won't tell me. You have people replace her with BertaProudDad. Yeah, you have not going to happen. But I'm honored. Thank you. But you have people in this independence movement that you're absolutely right. They got blinders on, right? So it's just they're already acting like we're an independent country. They're already acting that the vote has happened and we're there and this is it. And Danielle Smith has to go because she isn't going to give us this or that. Totally ignoring the fact that the reason we even went out and collected signatures and 7,000 volunteers went out in the blood, the cold and the wind and the sleet was because of Danielle Smith. But let's just not give her credit for that though, right? Because, the clear path here is that we have to really hone in on this and take charge and take care of it. Ladies and gentlemen, there's those people, and then there's people like myself, and I believe Chris is this guy as well. I don't want to speak for him, but he'll be able to speak in a second after my rant's done. It's people that understand that the province still has to be governed, right? Like we still have trade arrangements, we still have social services, we still have projects and that have to go through that are in collaboration with the federal government. We do have projects that are in collaboration with provincial governments. We have projects that are in collaboration with private business and private equity. We have all of this happening, and you're just going to take somebody, whoever who has the blinders on and replace him with Danielle Smith and think that is going to be good for Alberta? No, that's just not the way it works, right? So yes, there's people in the movement that have strict blinders on, and they're like, you know what? No, it's our way or the highway. But there's also people in the movement that are like, no, we understand that we're going to go to a referendum. We're going to look at direct democracy. We're going to, just like Danielle Smith said, the premier said, I will adhere to the will of the people. That's what direct democracy is. If we come back with a clear majority, Danielle Smith will declare herself a separatist. I guarantee that, a pro-independence minded individual. If we don't, well, what happens after that? Right. So this is what I see. Those blinder people, if we don't get the vote, immediately going to trigger an independence party in Alberta. What that's going to do, though, is it's going to piss off a lot of the conservatives, and they're going to leave the movement altogether. So instead of continuing to fight for independence, they're going to say, you know what? Nope, I don't want Naheed Nenshi to be premier. And that's the other thing I want to say. By going to a leadership review, by putting people in, you need to realize you need to select the right person that's going to literally beat Naheed Nenshi in an election.
So we can elect a banana?
Yeah. Here's the problem, though. There's a lot of people who are opposed to independence. So if that person becomes, just say, one of the major players in this independence movement who is not well liked, you are going to have their side come out in droves to vote. Droves. And that's the thing. So I say we stay the course. Danielle Smith, I'm pretty sure, is clear of what independence-minded individuals in this province want. And they want a referendum. In fact, over 700,000 of us do want a referendum. Mm-hmm. And I think that Danielle Smith, I will tell you right now, if she doesn't give us a referendum, I probably will never support her again. And that's how confident I am that Danielle Smith is going to give us one. The thing is, will it be the Stay Free Alberta question? I can't tell you that. I don't care either way. I just want a referendum.
Question. Why are you guys not making this movement in mainstream by talking about the problem of the people, like youth unemployment over immigration, rather than just pipelines? We do. We talk about those things all the time. We're talking about pipelines right now because that's what the buzz is that is current in the news. But yeah, we do talk about these things all the time.
Yeah, we do this every Sunday there, buddy. And but yeah, you are right, though. There's lots of things we can talk about: youth unemployment, immigration, mass irresponsible immigration, economic and non-economic migrants. We can talk about that all day. But leadership is one big thing that I've been looking at when it comes down to this independence movement and what is a good leader, right? And I've even come out and said, I'm not a good leader for the independence movement, for the simple fact that, one, I came here really late to this movement. And the reason why I joined the independence movement is two people. One of them is sitting right here, Chris Scott. And the other one is Adam Durgis. I listened to them day in and day out. I disagreed with them. I wanted to stay in Canada. And then eventually things happened. My line was crossed and I came to the independence movement. That's the thing is I've been here too soon. I'm still learning about certain things from people like Chris. And, but Chris is a great leader. I would put my neck out there for Chris to become a leader of the independence movement. And I know a lot of you would as well. But there's also people out there that are extremely toxic. And, you know, you have to understand that leaders have qualities. And one of those qualities of a great leader is to understand when you have done your job and your job has been fulfilled, you step back and allow other people to keep moving. And that is some of the best characteristics of a good leader.
I just had a conversation with somebody about that today, like about Let's Talk Alberta, which is www.letstalkalberta.com, or this QR code right there that you can't see anyway. I said, you know, I'm the CEO of Let's Talk Alberta, which doesn't really mean much except for I'm on the hook for everything. But if there was somebody who wanted to do that role, who could do it better than me, take it farther, build it bigger, 100%, it is yours. Send me your resume. Happy to do it. This isn't for me. I'm just doing what I believe I need to do to get closer to the goal that I want to achieve.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you. I appreciate you saying that, Lawrence. That means a lot. So thank you.
Dude, I've been watching you travel around this province from corner to corner to corner. You love this province. You care about this province. You care about the people, and I should say all people of this province. Because, you know, it's the same thing that I say. I'm not just fighting for conservatives. I'm fighting for everybody, right? And just because somebody might not be able to see it yet, I still think that we could better their lives because of it. And I know you're doing it as well. And you're taking a lot of time away from your family, from your own business to get this stuff done. And you know, that does show leadership. And you've never, you know, come off as arrogant. In fact, there's been people who I don't align with, and I've actually, like, I can't stand, literally come to me and say that Chris Scott is the only guy in the independence movement that I will follow. I won't follow you, BertaProudDad, because you're an asshole, but I'll follow Chris Scott because he's level-headed, he has integrity, and he knows his shit. And that is literally fact from haters of mine. They don't want to hear from me. They want to hear from you. And that's the thing. That's another thing why I wouldn't probably be a good leader of the independence movement, because I'm very brash, man. I will tell people literally to go fuck themselves, and then just on a whim, right? That's not a good leader. Like, that's, but again, that is a leadership quality. That is, in a sense of, I am not the guy for it, but I can assist from here, right? Like, I can support somebody in that role, and I can, you know, be in those backroom meetings and, you know, spread the message, but not the one steering the ship. If you know what I mean. I don't want to be that guy, because I know my own character, and, you know, that's telling on myself, I know. But that also tells you I'm in it for Albertans, not for me, because I don't want a leadership role at all. I wouldn't take somebody out of power for it. I wouldn't call for the premier to have a leadership review because of it. You know, all the stuff that's happening right now is very suspicious to me about, are people doing this because they want an independent Alberta? Or are they doing this because they want to be a premier? That's what's going on in my head.
Good point. And we really, it's tricky because we really never know until later on, right? Anyway.
Well, exactly. 100%. Yeah.
So, comment here. Danielle already said if the signature number was met, which it was twice, she would add the question in October. Heard me. The issue is that ruling by Justice Leonard, which is going to be appealed. I do want to point out that I do find it, I guess, intriguing would be the word, that as long as the independence movement has been, well, I guess since 2021, since the independence thing has been kind of moving more mainstream, there has never been a period of time in which there isn't something engaged in the courts and lawyers are getting paid. Like, this is the entire time. And now we're going to have another appeal. The Stay Free Alberta question or ruling is getting appealed, and the appeal is going to go past October. It will.
Yeah.
The problem, and actually the premier said that the government is going to appeal that as well. Why? Because she understands that ruling is not reflecting the spirit of the legislation that the judge is using to make the ruling. That's not what the people want. That's not what the people intended. The people never intended for our legislation to put chains around democracy because a group of chiefs don't want the question asked. That wasn't supposed to happen. Now, here's the problem. Because of that ruling, the stay free question is out. It is out.
Yeah.
There is no way, at least that I can see, that Danielle Smith could put the question, do you agree that Alberta should cease to be a province within Canada, become an independent state, on the ballot? As a matter of fact, I don't think she can put a referendum question with teeth on the ballot. Anything that would affect constitutional change because of this duty to consult thing. I think that's the sad reality. Does it mean that the petition was in vain? No, it certainly doesn't. It certainly does not. There's 301,620 people plus 1,500 more in transit, plus a whole bunch more that didn't get submitted, of people that want that question. That is significant, and the Premier is aware of that. The issue is that our courts are tying it up, and this is why when regions seek to become independent from the country that they're a part of, they don't do it through the laws of that country. They do it outside of it with the will of the people and recognition. If this was a will of the people thing and we could get somehow the referendum without Elections Alberta, we would just do the referendum, period. Because I don't want to live under the Constitution of Canada. I want something better for the people, by the people, that actually elevates First Nations people out of where they're at right now. That's what I want.
Yeah.
So it's unlikely.
Yeah,
it's
you're
unlikely
right.
that we're going to get the referendum question. And if we don't, Lawrence, well, now there's a faction of people that are going to throw a complete fit and put this all on Danielle Smith and try and take over and remove her in a leadership review. To what end? That's the problem. Now, do I agree that we should be taking over CA boards? And taking over is the wrong word. Participating in democracy, bringing people with us more than the other guy and winning? Yes, 100%. We should be doing those things. We should have been doing that all along. Should we be putting independence-minded candidates in every CA? 100%. 100%. But as for burning down Danielle because she's unable to do something because of this thing, wrong path.
Yeah, and I'll just be absolutely clear about one thing. So I've been looking at running as an MLA in the next provincial election. Everybody that I've ran into, so I'll just say this so I can debunk this whole caucus thing that NDP, head Nancy says that the UCP is a separatist party. There's MLAs that I talk to all the time that will not call me, will not text me, will not say boo to me now that I've said that I'm pro-independence, because they're not pro-independence, right? And that's the thing. But I'm not going to put them on blast. I'm not going to do any of that. That's their duty. They can do whatever they want, right? Like that's the thing. Now, there's other ones that, I think are pro-independence for sure. But I will be running on being pro-independence. And the UCP might not like that. So I'm running into a roadblock now where I might not even be able to win a nom because of that. So I might split the vote, which I'm completely against, but I'll have to tell people why I'll still run, is because we need to set an example, right? So if the UCP won't have me for whatever reason, I'm going into that riding and I am going to run in a riding that I think I can win, and I'm going to win an independent chair or seat in the legislature. And I can tell you right away, the UCP will probably come to me after that and ask me to join the party. Guaranteed. And at that point, I will literally have to have a decision and say, I am pro-independence, and that will be on every headline that I'm joining because I'm pro-independence, and we're going to start talking independence. Like, that's the thing. Like, so I've been told from multiple factions that you might not be able to run on independence if you join the UCP. Well, then I'm going as an independent. Like, that's what I'm going to do. I want to represent Albertans. I want to represent people, and I want to represent them the best of my ability. If the UCP won't have that, that's just not going to happen. Ryan says floor crossing. I didn't say I would cross the floor. I just said that the UCP would have to basically blah, 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 whatever, talk about independence. But here's the thing is Danielle Smith is in a really, really hard spot. I still appreciate her for everything that she's done. I'm clear about that. But you have people with a little bit of followers, because they're very loud people that everybody thinks they got a massive following, that are going to try to take over the UCP. That's called a coup, right? And it usually doesn't end very well. You have people that they say, okay, we want to join the UCP. We're going to join the UCP because we're pro-independence. And then other people are saying, look at all these memberships we're getting. I should run for leadership because they're going to vote for me. That's not the case either, right? They're two separate things. It's not a popularity contest because you convinced somebody to buy a membership. All you did was convince somebody to buy a membership. Danielle Smith is the right leader right now for this party and in the future, even if we sit... There's no other person I would want at the negotiating table negotiating independence for Alberta than Danielle Smith right now. So if we win a referendum, I want to see Danielle Smith in the room at least. But there is one individual, and you all know who it is, that I don't want to see. And there'll be more coming on that in the near future.
You know who I would want in the room?
Me?
My friend Dennis.
Dennis,
there is nobody in Alberta that has a better grasp on these things than Dennis. Mm-hmm. And he's calm, he's cool, he's collected. Anyway, he's
there's a lot of good people.
Had a tough time. Yeah.
There's a lot of good people that I would like to see in the room. But again, you got to have people with connections, with experience, with certain things, right? Like, and you can't have dicks, can't have assholes. It doesn't work that way, right? Like it's, you can't have people in the room that fucking attack everybody who thinks differently. That's not the way this works, right?
Not a good negotiation tactic, is it?
No, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. And that's all I'm saying is we got to have really good people and we got to have trust in those people. So I'm literally promoting people to buy UCP memberships because we should anyway, right? And yes, get involved, be part of your CA boards. Think about running in as a candidate, 100%. But I am not telling people under any circumstance do we need a leadership review at all. Anybody who's trying to do a coup in the UCP party right now, I don't agree with you. I disagree with you. It's that simple.
Freedom Train E1M says Smith has a mandate to add the question without an appeal. I don't think that's correct. However, I would certainly like to, if you could find the part of the Referendum Act or something to support that claim, I'm definitely very interested in that because I'd like to know more. And this is a perfect segue to this. Jeff Rath said it best. Jeff Rath said that duty to consult only happens during negotiation after a referendum is successful. Before that, you can't deny a democratic movement. I agree. That's the way I read it as well, as do many other people that I know. Lots of lawyers agree with that statement. The problem is, even though that statement may be correct, a judge has interpreted it in a different way. The ruling stands, and until it's appealed and overturned, that's what the government is going to use and base their actions on. That's the problem. And these things take time. It's absolutely ridiculous how long it takes. We need a reference question to the Supreme Court is what we need. And Danielle Smith can actually do that at any time. On any matter, constitutional matter, a premier of a province can send a reference question to the Supreme Court that they have to deliberate on and give a ruling on, and they got to do it within a certain amount of time. A number of premiers have done it in the past.
Somebody's saying in here, Danielle Smith can override the ruling. She can't. You can't override the judicial bench. You can't do that. And could you imagine if she could? Like, if she did? Like, that's basically getting involved with law. And, yeah, that just wouldn't happen. Now, what needs to happen is the appeal. Like Chris said, we have a good chance at winning that appeal, I think. But the thing is Chris said it's after October. I would like to see a question on the referendum, and that's what I would like to see.
Yeah. Jeff Rath and Mitch Sylvester has confirmed appeal filed on Friday. An application for stay will be filed Tuesday in the Court of Appeals. Sure. Great. And guess what? They're not going to have anything done before October. No. So what I'm assuming is that we're going to see a question on the ballot. It's not going to be exactly what we're looking for.
No.
It's probably going to mean that we have more time to work. It's probably going to open up a time period that we could do this consultation that the First Nations are asking for and prepare later. It might very well work out, folks, that the referendum this October is something like, do you agree that the Alberta government should begin the process of pursuing Alberta sovereignty or something like that. I don't know what it would read, but something like that, giving the government a mandate to start this process, to start the consultation with First Nations people. I would actually consider that a win as well, although I would like to raise a new flag in January. Maybe that's not the way it's going to work out. Maybe it's not supposed to work out like that. I don't know.
So I don't want to be like that guy, but a lot of the reason when I wasn't supporting independence is because I didn't see it as cut and dry, and I knew it was going to be challenged every step of the way. So that's part of my brain that made it seem impossible, right? But then you start seeing things you can't unsee. And now I still know that it's going to be very, very hard to do. But I always knew that even if we got after a successful referendum, it was never going to be 3 months, 6 months, or even a year for us to be raising a new flag. And there's people that still disagree with me on that, and that's fine. But as long as we got a successful referendum and we were working towards that, I'm completely okay with that and content, and we keep moving towards it. Now we see this, like you said, a different question. And just hear me out. We still have a lot of work to do. The Let's Talk Alberta tour is alive and well and very strong, and going around, from town to town, city to city, and having, great events. Honestly, I've said this to people before. I wanted the referendum to be in another year and a half. I didn't want it to be right away. Reason being, more time to educate, more time to get out there, more time to teach people about this and get them to wake up and see it. And that's, I would like to see a referendum question. Should we continue the process of X? And if it's yes, then like you said, the government does have a mandate, right? They have a clear mandate from citizens that, yes, we want to continue exploring this. Now there's a faction that are going to lose their minds because, yes, 7,000 people collected signatures. Your hate is with Justin Trudeau, who elected that judge, who put her in place. That's who your hate is with. It's not with Danielle Smith. She had no choice. In fact, she put something in place already where she's trying to strong arm Carney and say, we get to choose our justices in Alberta. You don't. We get to choose the people who are going to be ruling over Albertans. She did that month before this all happened. You got a chief justice who literally was appointed by Trudeau. That's who your hate's with, not the premier.
That's a great point, and it kind of goes along with this. Cliff54 asks, can the UCP membership change the UCP constitution to be a separatist party? Yes, the answer is yes. Here's the problem. And this actually goes back to the line that Smith is walking. Danielle Smith's, one of her people that she has great respect for is Ralph Klein. And she often mentions that Ralph Klein had a motto, and his motto in politics was, I don't create the parade, I find the parade and I get in front of it. He doesn't create the movement, he finds the movement, identifies it, and get in front of it. Right now, Danielle Smith, she knows that the independence movement is big and growing, and especially within the party. The party is about, I think it's estimated about 75, maybe even higher % people are independence minded. That is a very huge portion of her base is our independence minded Albertans. Now, she's accountable to those people, right? Correct. She is. The problem, and if there was nothing else in this conversation, would she get in front of that parade? Absolutely she would, because she believes that that's effective politicking. I think there's a different way. I think you should get up on a soapbox, advocate for your position, change people's minds, have conversations, bring them to you, change the world. But that's beside the point. The problem is, if the UCP membership changed the UCP to become a separatist party, there are roughly 24 UCP MLAs that would immediately walk. That would take down the government. I've heard through the grapevine that there are some UCP MLAs who are getting pressured from their spouses to walk right now because they hate the idea of Danielle even allowing the conversation on independence. So this is a pretty serious thing. Now, what happens if that many UCP MLAs walk?
Yeah, the NDP is now the government.
Boom. Yes. So could the UCP membership change the UCP constitution to a separatist party? 100%. Would it get us the outcome that we desire? No, it absolutely wouldn't. And the reason why is because we haven't done enough let's talking with people and bringing those people to our side. We aren't prepared to do something like that. In the next election, could we do it? 100%. We'd have to make sure that every single MLA that we nominate and then elect is on board with the idea of an independent Alberta. And then we could create an effective party that is pro-Alberta sovereignty. 100%. You can do that with any political party, by the way.
But you got to go back to the education. You got to go back to the education, right? And because right now, a separatist party in Alberta, you know, I don't, and I just say this as a pro-independence person, an independence party in Alberta would not win an election. I don't think we're there yet. I would like to say that we have a lot of work to do and we're doing it. But again, this is what I've noticed about government and with social media. And we've seen it a lot with Pierre Poilievre and with Justin Trudeau when he was in power. People want instant gratification, right? They're addicted to it. Social media has given us that dopamine rush in the first 3 seconds of watching a video. Yeah. So people want instant gratification. They want it now. So Danielle Smith, if you don't do this, we're kicking you out. But then you have the rational minds, the people that are here, like our friend Tina down there and yourself and many of you other beauties in the chat that understand that this shit takes time because that's the way the government is and that's the way this stuff happens. We need to continue educating people, and we're always going to continue educating people, regardless of an outcome in October. I think it's important for us to stand steadfast against this federal government who hates us, literally hates us, and it's important for us to keep fighting. I did say that the judge was elected. I just want to take that out. She was appointed. Absolutely. That was word soup on my part. I apologize. A little tired. But again, we need to understand that there's motives for certain people. And my motives have always been clear. And I think Chris's as well, because we've had tons of discussions on this off camera. This is for the betterment of Albertans, including First Nations, including children of this province, to give them a future. Mm-hmm. It's not to make Chris Scott rich. It's not to make me rich. It's not to make anybody anything.
Oh, my goodness. Should have told me.
And I said this. I said there's leaders. There's so-called people look at certain people as leaders in this movement that are millionaires, that are going to be millionaires regardless of if Alberta is independent or not. And they're never going to hurt. They don't feel the same financial burdens as you or me. And they're so-called independent supporters, also wanting to remove the premier. Start using your noggins and figure out what motives are of certain individuals. Because
are you going to go ahead?
It doesn't look very it doesn't look very clear to me that there's people that want independence. It looks like they want power. And now they have power. Now what's going to happen? They think that a magic wand is going to happen and they're going to get independence. It doesn't work that way. I believe in democracy. And if we go to the polls and we want independence, we'll fight for it. If we don't and we lose, guess what? That's democracy.
Yes. That's what the people advocating for things going to suffer the consequences of their bad decisions or not, right? That's a good question to ask yourself. Yes. Tina asks, please tell me what you two think the benefits of everyone and their dog signing up to be a UCP member. Well, first of all, the AGMs are an absolute blast. They're tons of fun. There's lots of good people. They're exciting. It's great to be able to participate in democracy like that. You get to have a voice, regardless what your position on certain things are. That's really cool. And so I think it is beneficial. And I've been an advocate to be a member of your political party, well, basically since I realized what it was. And it was like in 2022. So yeah, I think that there are benefits. And yes, some people will be doing it for the wrong reason. But I would hope that once people get into that, into it, the party politics thing, that you'll realize that it can be fun and it's satisfying sometimes and fulfilling. Sometimes you're let down, whatever. That's how democracy works. But it's a great experience, and I would encourage everyone to do it. So yes, I would encourage you to be a member.
Yeah, and she wrote there, I'm talking about people that didn't care to join before Jeff told them to. Again,
oh, I missed it. Where is that?
9:42 p.m. So the thing about Jeff Rath is this, okay? He has his own initiative, and he has a plan that he thinks he can strong arm Danielle Smith. It's clear as day. That's what he's trying to do. I'm not going to put words in his mouth, though. I question his motives 100% as to why he's doing what he's doing. It's been no secret that I question his motives. It's no secret that he doesn't like me either, probably because I question his motives.
I thought he loves BertaProud, dude.
Yeah, that's what he calls me, BertaProud, dude. But he hates anybody who questions his authority or questions his vision. And that's what he does. He hates on people, anybody. It's not just me. You can see what he did with Corey Morgan and everybody else. But the thing is I have a voice just like him, right? So he can go out and tell people to get UCP memberships just like I can, right? I can go out and say, hey, Jeff Rath is trying to take over the party. If you don't want that to happen and you want to, have real voice in the UCP, you go do it too, right? Two could play that game. And I don't think Jeff realizes that. It's a win-win because the conservatives get more memberships and we get more people engaging in the party, right? So that's kind of the thing is I can go and say exactly what they're saying is, hey, if you don't want Jeff Rath to take over the party, get your UCP membership because you get to vote for a leader and get to vote to keep Danielle, right? Like it works both ways. So I'm all for people getting their memberships to the UCP party because that's democracy. UCP is one of the only parties in Canada that is a grassroots party, and we solve things at a grassroots level.
Yeah, except I gotta say, I am a little miffed that the party, like the elected members, often ignore the party policy. Like we've passed some policies that are pretty important to the membership, and they ignore it.
Yes.
The next AGM, I think there's going to be some work on that to kind of put some levers of power to compel our elected members to pursue the party policy. But that's, again, it's something that we can fix, right? Steve says, Danielle would call the question under Referendum Act. It is the Citizen Initiative Act that is being quashed. I'm going to check into that, Steve. I got to say, I can't comment on it because I haven't read up on it, but I will. I do believe that the judge is talking specifically about the question. But again, I'm going to dig into that. So I appreciate that. Actually, you know what? I'll be in for coffee tomorrow morning. Maybe you can tell me about it then. Steve's in the Whistle Stop all the time. We hang out all the time.
I love that. But the thing is again, I'm not hating on Jeff Rath at all. And I just dislike the guy and I can't trust him as far as you can throw him. That's not hating him. I just don't trust him. I think anybody who decides to go and try to disrupt our party, that is trying to govern this province, before, an election is stupid. And it doesn't make any sense to me unless you were vying for power. Unless you were trying to do something to empower yourself, there would be no reason to do this. So I see a coup, and that's how I see it. I respect him for all the work he did. And now he's just going a little offside on Twitter. And just reminds me of Donald Trump. It's like, oh, look, he tweeted about BertaProudDad again. Dud, or whatever he wants to call me. Good for him. Dude. You're using your valuable Twitter time to talk shit about a private citizen in Alberta. Don't you care about independence? Yeah.
Freedom Train E1M says Jeff Rath is correct. Smith can use Section 1 of the Referendum Act to go forward. Well, thank you for the comment. I'm gonna look into that because that was out of my wheelhouse. I didn't know. Now I know, so I'm gonna look it up and I'll be able to talk about it next week. Yeah. Can you imagine spouses overreacting regarding what's best for Canada? No way. Yeah, no kidding. Hey, politics.
BertaProud Mom loves Alberta independence. She looks at our kids and she wants what's best for our kids. And she has supported me when we had the talk. When I sat there, I was upstairs and I said, Les, people are going to get pissed, but I have to support Alberta independence. Like, there's no other way here. And she's like, well, as long as you know you're going to lose a lot of support. And I said, yeah. She's like, I back you 100%, 100%. And she started learning about it. And we like be on drives when we go for our little tours, whether we're going with to see you or that drive up to Fort Mac. Half the drive up to Fort Mac was all about Alberta independence. She was asking questions. We were looking it up. We were like, you know what I mean? We were reading some of your blogs. We want what's best for the future. We want what's best for our kids. And that's why I'm fighting for it, whether or not people agree or disagree. It did absolutely 100% affect my viewership because, well, some conservatives in the country called me a traitor, right? Who followed me for years and years. But again, I got to take care of my home. I got to take care of where I'm from, and I got to support the land under my feet. And I strongly encourage all conservatives or anybody who looks at the federal government and sees what they have done to do that in their own backyards as well, regardless if you live here or not.
Yep. I missed it. Oh, Benita says, love your website, Chris. Let's talk Alberta.com. It's so neat that you have an AI tool. Yeah, I put an AI chatbot on Let's Talk Alberta.com, and I trained it with all of the blogs I've done, with some independence information, some things that I've learned from Michael Wagner and Corey Morgan and Alberta Prosperity Project and a bunch of others. So you could go on there and you could say, like, ask the chatbot, well, what about my pension? And the chatbot will explain to you and back it up with citations and references about what happens with your pension. Pretty cool. Check it out. Let's talk Alberta.com.
Yeah, that's awesome. And
as for what you just said,
yeah.
Where is it here? Jeremiah 29:7. You said that you want to take care of your home, where you're from. Folks, if you don't mind, someone look up Jeremiah 29:7, post it in the comments for me. Land of confusion, that is politics. The Westminster parliamentary system, I think, is one of the more confusing governance structures that we have. I believe it was intentionally designed to be confusing for the average person so that we couldn't participate properly. And here we are with the tyrants literally telling us that we might not be able to pray in public anymore. Interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where
it is brutal, man. It is. But again, through all of the hate and the death threats and the comments, like, you remember that guy who wrote that big long spiel? You didn't give me a chance to respond, but my only response was going to be, remember when I told you that I'm not stooping down to anybody's level anymore? I'm not doing that. Right. I'm just like, as soon as you have to call me a name to get your point across, I am over it. I am finished. And whether they don't think that I can have a conversation or a dialogue, I just am not doing it anymore with 3-year-olds on the internet. You're an adult. You should be able to disagree as an adult. You should be able to say, hey, I disagree with you. Here's why, without having to call me an idiot, the R word, racist, homophobe, bigot, whatever. And yeah, this is kind of where I'm at. Oh man, Twitter lefties are unhinged. Man, okay, here's one thing for the people in the chat, just going off topic with, I got 2 things my ADHD have been bothering me with. That apron of Carrie.
That's a t-shirt.
Point. Oh, it's a I thought it was an apron. I thought you were grilling glizzies with that thing.
No. That's a t-shirt. I wear that thing. Actually, I was wearing my Carrie hoodie out the other day, and someone said, "You have a picture of yourself on your sweatshirt?" And I was like, "No, this is my friend Carrie."
I love that.
They said, "Oh, he looks just like you," and I said, "Well, man, I'll tell him about your insult."
I love that, and I'm kind of jealous I don't have one. And the second thing I was going to talk about, I forget. So let's talk about the Bible verse.
Jeremiah 29:7, also seek the peace and prosperity of the city to which I have carried you into exile. Pray to the Lord for it, because if it prospers, you too will prosper. What does that mean? What does that mean to you folks? There's a lot of people of faith who tell me things like, oh, give to Caesar what is Caesar's. We're not supposed to get involved in politics. No, we absolutely are. Because when our nation prospers, we too will prosper. We're supposed to get involved. We're literally called to action through our faith by God to be involved in things so that we can make the world a better place. And I would encourage you folks to remember that, if your faith-based friends are telling you that they don't get involved in politics because of their faith.
You want to know why I do politics? And I think Michelle Ferrari, she was the one that brought it to light, but I think this has been said before, because I'm pretty sure I heard it before, but I'll give her credit. If you don't do politics, politics will do you. And I truly do believe in that. If you don't do it, you don't have a choice. But that's why I attend events and I talk to MLAs and ministers all the time, the ones who will still speak to me, and the ones who don't, they know they're going to have to speak to me eventually. But the thing is I speak to them because, and it's not all roses and butterflies. Trust me. I could sit there and tell them with Care First Insurance, for instance, literally telling them, I hate it. I don't like it. We got to take this off the table. We got to renegotiate it. I went to the Conservative Party convention, which I'll never be invited to again, as an influencer for free. And I spent the whole weekend talking about Alberta independence. You think they appreciated that? Probably not. They're a Federalist Party, but guess what? I did it anyway because I support Alberta independence. I talked to Melissa Lantsman about Alberta independence. Andrew Scheer. You know what I mean? Like, you're sitting there in the room talking with MPs about Alberta independence. They disagreed, obviously. But the thing is, I still had the conversation with them and their staffers and the people around because it's that important to me. I won't be invited to another Conservative Party convention. That's a promise. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, I could see that. There must have been some eyebrows raising in that room.
Oh yeah. They were not happy.
Yeah. So I just put up a comment. Please post some question marks for your questions and we'll get to them because we're just creeping up on 2 hours, which is a long time considering
we double showed it,
talking about how tired we were.
Well, I am still tired, but we double showed it because I wasn't here last week. So I have FOMO. Right. So I'm like, well, let's do 2 shows in one, I guess.
Yep. Is BertaProudDad willing to support a mankini in the name of Alberta independence? Lol.
Yeah, I would. I absolutely would. But we'll auction off the mankini after. Who do you think is going to buy it? I bet you Chris buys it. Mine.
Oh man, I don't know. For those
Tina, I have not heard about a cabinet shuffle.
I'm gonna for those that don't know what a mankini is, I'm gonna bring it up here.
Question for Lawrence. Why weren't you in Edmonton when we turned in the signatures? I wasn't in Edmonton because I had a medical appointment that I was on a waiting list for a very long time. And it just so happened to be on that day as well. And I wasn't going to go on a waiting list for another 7 months to get that appointment. So yeah,
that's a long waiting list. If only we could do something about it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay.
But I think the event went perfectly okay with me not being there. Right?
It was good. It was lots of energy.
Yeah.
Where is it? There we go. Well, children, cover your eyes. Mankini.
Let's go.
Yeah. And you notice how calm everyone is at the beach? Like, just super calm. There's a guy standing there in a mankini. Nobody's really staring. No one's covering their eyes. It's like they're used to it. Craziness.
I love that.
Yeah, I got to close that. Yeah,
I would not wear that in front of children. That's just
no, me neither. I don't think you could. I think that's like jail time. Well, unless you're reading to them in a library, then I think it's okay.
If you're an NDP supporter, you have your equity card, and you're reading at a library, you're perfectly okay with it.
Oh, where do we get those cards from? Can we just make them ourselves?
I thought about doing equity cards and selling them on my website.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, just so so people can bring them to like dinner parties or Christmas dinners or whatever it might be with their liberal friends and just pull out their equity card. I'm speaking in front of you.
Yeah. Benita asks, what are your thoughts on Bill 25 and act to remove politics and ideology from classrooms and amend the Education Act 2026?
Totally against it. Hate it. Can't stand it. We should be teaching kids in school as no, of course I support it. I think honestly, you know, I said it during the teacher strike, academics is for academics. You know, at the end of the day, what we now have is teachers turned into little activists in university, going to our, elementary schools and high schools, turning our students into little activists as well. Not all of them, because my kids got out without being little activists, but that took a lot of work and a lot of unlearning, right? At home and through our faith and everything else and our values. And then there's a lot of parents out there working 2-3 jobs. Those kids are falling through the cracks, man. Those kids are getting brainwashed extensively. So I am totally against teaching children anything outside of the curriculum. Teachers will tell you, we only teach in the curriculum, as the kid has to stare down Trans Lives Matter sticker all day, every day for 6 hours in a classroom, and Black Lives Matter and Free Palestine and all this other stuff. Well, but we teach the curriculum. No, that's propaganda. And it's been proven time and time again, it works when somebody looks at something every day, all day. It can change their mind.
So Benita is actually getting dragged before a human rights tribunal.
I was going to say that, yeah.
Was an advocate for removing, for having neutral municipal things, like no more rainbow crosswalks, rainbow flags, keep it neutral, whatever. And she's being dragged through a human rights tribunal for hate speech. So I've asked Benita if she would join me for a interview next week, and she has accepted. I think we're going to do it Tuesday, although I got to check because that might be in conflict with some stuff we're doing with Let's Talk Alberta. As a matter of fact, that is going to be in conflict because...
Can I take this time to also ask Benita for an interview?
Yeah, I'll get you in touch with her after. I actually did say that I was going to get her in touch with you, and then I completely forgot because we had some... Well, you're aware of the crazy things that happened over the last little while that kind of took a lot of my time. So anyway,
yes, sir.
Yeah, we will be talking more with Benita about this for sure.
Yeah, I'd like to interview her as well if she'd come on the show. It's the more the merrier.
Yep. Yeah, she is the least hateful person out there. She's wonderful. 100%. Absolutely. She is a very lovely lady, and she certainly doesn't deserve to be going through these things at all.
Mm-hmm.
Where did we go here? I lost it. Oh, Albertans for 51st state. Thoughts? Nope. Not interested.
No, thank you. Not interested as well.
With that one. And there was some hate here. I just got to find it. It's very important.
Oh, we got some hate coming in?
Very important hate. It's somebody who's not going to support Alberta independence now.
Oh,
where did it go? I'll find it in a second. What do you think about Forever Canada Avenue? It's a nothing burger question, wouldn't affect any constitutional change or give us any leverage. However, if it was accompanied with something like, do you agree that Alberta should remain in Canada and the Alberta government should start to take control of all things that we can, that might do something. Go ahead, Berta.
I think they're talking about you. I don't think you heard of this. That there's a proposal to change an avenue in Edmonton to be named Forever Canada Avenue.
Oh, good grief.
Yes, sir.
Oh.
Yeah.
No. Against. Next.
Wild, eh? Absolutely insane, bud.
Where did that question go? Should we bring equity cards to the UCP AGM? No.
Yes. I would.
Whatever, do it.
Go get your equity card, BertaProudDad.com, bring it to the AGM. No equity cards. That NDP convention made world headlines. Like, Canadians look, I was just talking to a guy over the weekend about this. Canadians look so stupid because of that. Because now people think that's Canada. Yeah. It's crazy.
It is insane. I lost a question. I'm sorry, folks. I seem to have missed it. I saw some question marks a little while ago, and it flew right by. My apologies. Well, you got a couple minutes. If you put it back up, I'll get to it.
Yeah, we're only going until 2 hours. We got 4 minutes left here.
Yeah, it's
My
definitely
wife's probably
long
up there
enough.
like, what is going on? Shows are only usually an hour. You know, when we first talked, we were going to make this show a half hour.
Yeah.
We've never had a half hour show.
If we did it every 2 days, it could be a half hour, but in a week, oh my goodness, the whole world changes.
Yeah. Oh, it's a hate comment. Berta Mankini, yuck, I'm no longer supporting independence. Oh, darn.
Well,
okay.
But then after that, I don't know what he's buying for 500 rubles, but it might actually be your Mankini. Who knows?
Speaking of which, does anybody know where I can convert 350 million rubles to Canadian dollars? Because I'm just asking for a friend.
Oh, hold on. You know what? I got a phone call later on tonight. I'll ask for you.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah. Ryan Schwartz says, what is the rules to the duty to consult? What would the process be for a citizen to do so? Go knock a door, send a letter. What's the definition to consult? And ask for permission or to inform your intent. How does one even get official clearance that they did consult with First Nations? I think it has to be a government thing, honestly. I think it has to be a government-sanctioned, proper consultation process where they have everyone at the table. And no, consultation does not mean consent. That was kind of the idea of the treaties, was that, you know, we would consult, but no, we built these things. You ceded this land. We gave you things for it, and now we're going to consult with you. But no, you don't get a veto. That's kind of the intention.
And then that's why they're trying to there's so much confusion around that. They're trying to twist it that they do get a veto. There's no such thing as a First Nations veto. That doesn't exist. We can consult. We can have a conversation, a dialogue. If Mark Carney wants to rip a pipeline, 7 pipelines through northern British Columbia tomorrow, he can. He can. He's going to piss a lot of people off in the process, but he just can. Yeah. Right? That's the way it works.
Absolutely. And Steve says, comments on the phone and tech giants basically saying they won't put backdoors in programs and services. Ha, ha, ha. It's already there. Yeah. Do you know how I know? Because the Canadian military got busted for using that stuff during COVID as an experiment to see if they could spy on Canadians. It's already there, folks. There is no app that's going to protect you. If the government wants to know what you're saying, they're going to know what you're saying because they threaten the internet providers and the people that create the software with regulating them out of existence if they don't do these things that they want them to do. So your conversations are not private. You live under in a technocracy under Big Brother. Sorry to be the burst your bubble.
And neither are your cameras like on your laptops. So now I wear pants whenever I do these interviews.
We're supposed to be wearing pants?
Yeah, I did. I sent you a memo.
Oh,
make sure you have pants on. They're watching.
Oh boy. Well, this is awkward, but it's more awkward for them than it is for me. So whatever.
Right.
Well,
let's remind people, Chris, that we do this every Sunday. Yeah. We got to remind people that we do this every Sunday. This, Sunday, 8 p.m. Berta Standard Time.
Nice.
This is when we come here and we have these talks. So I really hope you guys can mark that in your calendars. And this is literally what it is off the cuff. Oh yeah, BertaProudDad.com, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys want to go support my channel, we appreciate it.
I need you to do it right. Where can we go to find your content and maybe buy a cool BertaProudDad sweater?
BertaProudDad.com.
Nice. I wait for that.
Let's go.
Oh, look at that. They knew it was coming.
They knew it was coming.
Right on. And yes, Carlos says you two are nuts. Absolutely. I agree. But you know what? I'd rather be crazy with friends like Berta than not with out friends like Berta, I guess. Yeah. Need a 0% liberal t-shirt. Actually, you know what? Let me just bring that up real quick.
Did you see my new one? Sick of Ottawa's bullshit.
I did. Yes.
First time I ever put a swear word on a piece of clothing.
Where is it? No balls in women's stalls.
That one's popular.
Where's the new one?
It'll be down further. If you go into categories, you'll be able to find it.
Okay, I found it. So I found your 0% liberal. So there's a liberal 0% liberal hoodie. That's a pretty fantastic thing to rep in Alberta for sure. Yep. And where is that new one? It is.
If you go to the bottom, it goes Sick of Ottawa. Go up to the top.
Oh, this one?
Go to the left menu. It says you go all the way to the bottom. It'll be right at the bottom of that.
Sick of Ottawa.
Yeah. So this is the new one. Sick of Ottawa's bullshit.
Oh, and it's summer, so perfect time for a tank top.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right on. Yeah, so there you go, folks. If you want to rep some BertaProudDad stuff and convey your message about your patriotism for Alberta, BertaProudDad.com. And
BertaProudDad.com.
That's the one. Yeah. And we got some cool things at whistletoptruckstop.ca/shop, I guess. One of the coolest things is our new Republic of Alberta phone cases for whatever your cell phone is. And I don't have one in front of me. I should have brought one, but we got some awesome oversized coffee mugs with Free Alberta. And you know those big, stupid Stanley things that people wander around with the straws in them, sipping water all day? Yeah, we got those. So if you like those things, then we got those with the Free Alberta on it. But,
love that.
Yeah, appreciate the support.
Yeah.
And when are people going to see you next in my neck of the woods?
Aren't they up there this week?
Yes, you are.
Isn't there a poster out there?
There is.
You want to know what's funny about this though, Chris?
Huh.
Somebody just put me on the poster again, except I'm not busy that day, so I'm going.
Oh, I thought it was already confirmed.
No, it wasn't.
Oh boy.
I saw the poster come out and I was like, oh shit. I don't have anything that night. I'm going. So I'm going. Look home, I believe.
Yeah, look home. I'm trying to find the poster. Oh, there it is right there. I'll share that screen quick.
What day is it again?
The 26th.
Yes, because I'm off. I leave the 27th. So yes, 26th, Lacombe. I will be there. And we're getting dessert.
Yes.
And yeah, who's self speaking? Ben Crane, Chris Scott, and BertaProudDad. Look at that.
Yeah, good thing you're not busy.
Right.
So yeah, this is a sit-down dinner event. I'm hoping some dancing. If you haven't heard Dane Van Hagen yet, he is absolutely fantastic. I call him, a good-looking Tom Petty. He is a fantastic musician and entertainer. Also, our favorite Dutchman, Jasper Smit, is flying out this week. Jasper is going to be staying with me for a couple, 3 weeks because we have some catering events to do. And he's going to be doing a dessert for this dinner. I'll be doing the dinner. It's going to be smoked chicken and ribs and some other things that go with it. And then we'll have probably, open bar and some dinner, dancing, drinks, just a good time. And maybe a short little spiel on why we love Alberta so much and want to stay involved. And then we're just going to have a really good time. Please go to where is it? letstalkalberta.com. Scroll down and you'll see a link to buy tickets. You got to buy tickets to this one. It's not a free one because we're spending some money. We need to sell a lot of tickets, probably 100 or so. It is a fundraiser for Let's Talk Alberta, but you also get a great dinner, great dessert, great entertainment, and you get to meet one of those 3 wonderful comedians on the bottom of the poster. So it's going to be a great night.
It'll be fun. I'm really excited for it.
And Kevin Peters is going to be with Dane, and Ruth Purvis-Smith, one of our favorite Freedom entertainers. She's going to be there as well. So yeah, going to be a great evening.
Love that.
May 26th, doors open at 5:30.
I really want to see you guys there. I really want to come engage, have a chat. Let's talk. If you've never met myself or Chris, it's a great time to engage with us and ask us all the questions in the world and pick our brains and let us pick your brains too. Because, I love going out to these events because I learn a ton from the people who follow me, and they critique me too. It's crazy. They say, hey, you're really letting the haters get to you. Maybe you could do this, or, hey, you said this. What did you mean by that? There's so many cool things that happen when you're face to face with people. It's awesome.
Yeah. It's a different experience and well worth it. Worth the $50 for your ticket, which includes dinner 100%. And entertainment. So yeah, it's great. Going to be great. All right. Well, thank you for spending, where are we at here? 2 hours and 6 minutes on the dot right now. Yeah,
Love it.
Thanks for giving me so much time, giving us so much time, and looking forward to seeing you in the Lacombe event. And then again, Sunday night, 8:00, same place, for the live weekly recap with Chris and BertaProudDad.
Absolutely. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you for being here.
Here's Stumpy. Meow. May 26th, 5:30, Lacombe Memorial Center. Chicken and ribs. Dane Van Huggen. Music, drinks, food. What more could you want?